Hi, everyone. Here's another episode from Be Heard Women Empowering Women. And today we have the lovely Dr. Cynthia Guy with a resume that includes completing her medical training at Washington University and serving as chief of anesthesiology at the Missouri Baptist Hospital. She takes a holistic approach to living well. And after reversing some of her own physical problems through diet, she wrote the book, Love Yourself Healthy. And we are going to start with, did I leave anything out? And please introduce yourself now, Cynthia.
Hello, ladies, today. I'm delighted to be here with you. As Marie mentioned, my name is Dr. Cynthia Guy. I am a former anesthesiologist, and about 23 years ago, I left my profession because I had problems with mobility, which I thought was just exhaustion.
Mm.
And from there on, the diagnosis came of multiple sclerosis, and I had to revamp my life.
Yeah, I was a independent living skills trainer for people with disabilities like MS. And MS can be chronic or progressive. But either way, I assume you had chronic, or do you have progressive? Did you have?
Mine was first remission and exacerbation, and that lasted for maybe a year, and then I got into secondary progressive, and then over the years I became primary progressive, and I continued to do everything I need to do because medications just did not help.
No.
I did the medications for about 4 years initially, and at that time, 23 years ago, it was not covered by insurance, private or otherwise. And it was $1,000 a month. And I did that for 4 years.
Wow.
And when I saw that the remission wasn't coming on, I decided I better do things on my own. So I became adventurous and started my research.
Yeah.
And,
so tell us about your book, Love Yourself Healthy. Yeah. Tell us about your book. Love Yourself Healthy.
Well, 20 years ago, when I left a very, very busy career and stressful career, and not having a regular schedule with my eating and my diet, I was pretty chunky. I was weighing 180 pounds. And I started thinking, well, maybe this has something to do with my weight. Interestingly enough, the only site that I could find that even connected nutrition with the autoimmune disease of multiple sclerosis was a site in the UK. And then they started talking about basically doing the vegetables and avoiding things that were not good, avoiding alcohol, doing some exercise. And I was told at that time not to exercise because it would be not good for MS. I said, really? And at that time, I was very, very much in love with exercise. So I stopped exercising for several years. And in my research, I learned that mobility is important. So I engaged in starting to move because I learned that movement is life. Additionally, I also learned that I wasn't eating the right stuff. And I started to think about maybe I need to lose some weight. And over the years, that has been part of my therapy.
Okay. So I want to go into that. So your personal experience with MS and reversing that illness was that you were getting misinformation from the health community, correct? Do you feel it? Like they didn't know what you went out and found out that you could do. They didn't say these things to you then.
No, 23 years ago, that was non-existent. They basically say you need to take the drugs. You need to take the injections. And basically, the first doctor that I saw when he saw my MRI said to me, you know, Cynthia, this doesn't look good. You're probably going to be totally an invalid in about 6 months because my brain lit up like a Christmas tree. And I told my neurologist at that time, I do not have time for that. I have too many things to do because I was really a workaholic. I was addicted to the dopamine. I like the excitement. That's why I was an anesthesiologist. Every time I put a patient to sleep, the patient's life was in my hands. And I lived with that for 30 years in my career, noticing that I enjoy the height, the stress, and it was part of who I was. Regrettably, I recognized that too late when I already had an autoimmune condition due to the incredible amount of stress I lived through my career. I'm a firm believer that stress is a killer. And I later learned in research that indeed stress,
Yes.
some of it is good to keep us going,
Yes.
but too much of it can kill us.
So let me ask you, so for someone that, like you said, you liked the high pressure life you were living then. Now, your adrenal glands kick in, right? When you have that kind of a moment. And if you constantly do that, like they call it being a high junkie or whatever, risk junkie or, you know, excitement junkie, right? Doesn't that
Yes.
eventually affect your adrenal system? You think?
Right.
It's my theory
Absolutely.
now. Yeah, and that can cause illness too, right? So I think you probably have that going on, maybe. So what you had to transform your own life with your own decisions and your research. So how did you finally do that? Transform.
It took some work. It took some work. It took investigating, research, reading, going to influencers at that time who were truly interested in what was really happening at the level of the brain. And interestingly enough, at that time, when I started learning that one can also have cognitive changes with an autoimmune condition such as multiple sclerosis, I started paying attention to my brain. Am I forgetting things?
Mm-hmm.
Am I really on top of the game, so to speak? I continued to have considerable stress in my life when I was diagnosed because 7 years later, my husband was diagnosed with cognitive changes, and he was ultimately given a diagnosis of vascular dementia progressing to Alzheimer's condition.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it upon myself to take care of my husband in the home setting, in addition to 2 other people. I did that for too long. I did that for 8 years. And finally, it came to the realization that this additional stress on top of the superimposed multiple sclerosis was really not helping me. So I had to make decisions concerning my husband's care, and finally got him in a long-term care facility where he's getting excellent care today. And I had to start taking care of myself. And among the things that I learned were nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management, and all those important elements that take care of our body, mind, and spirit.
Yes, yes. And I think what I'm finding in my community and other places is that women seem to outlive their husbands. And I always say that's because we're taking care of you and making you healthy. But then they do a lot of things that we don't like. And then there's some things that you can't do anything about. Like my husband has Parkinson's and stage 3. So I have a chronic autoimmune condition also, which has been mislabeled for 40 years. like at first they said fibromyalgia because they used to put, if they didn't know, they used to put everything under that umbrella. Oh, it's fibromyalgia, right? Then supposedly it's Sjogren's syndrome. I don't care what label you put on it. What advice do you have for women like me that both have some kind of a condition going on that has a lot of inflammation and pain involved, and also caretaking of a spouse or maybe a parent? What can you tell them to take care of themselves?
Regrettably, when we have pain and discomfort or mobility issues, brain issues, it's sort of all categorized under one condition. I think some physicians look at your age and they say, well, you're aging, that comes with aging. But I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm.
They put in this basket of aging. Well, you're supposed to have pain, that comes with aging. Or you're supposed to have problems doing this because it comes with aging.
Aging.
And as a physician with issues, I'm here to tell you that it does not have to be this way. The research shows us that there is a root cause for all these problems that one develops as we go into that aging category. And I have made such amazing progress in my own personal life that I think that we need to pay attention to these factors that we can do and change. As I mentioned, nutrition, eating healthy, and what is really healthy is different for each one of us. And the primary, the root of healthy thing is to not eat all this sugar and the heavy carbohydrates. Not that we're supposed to eliminate it, but we need to pay attention of really the quantity and the quality of what we are eating every day.
Yes, yes. It's like the less things that come in a box are probably out there. They call
Exactly. We
clean
need to
clean
avoid
eating.
processed foods. The
Right,
processed food
exactly.
is killing us.
Oh,
The
for
processed food is
years.
killing us.
It is.
We
It
need
is.
to really pay attention to what we eat every single day.
And from what I learned about changing bad habits or unhealthy habits, is sometimes you need just to change one little thing at a time. So,
Exactly.
yes. So if you are used to
Exactly.
having ice cream every night after dinner, okay, maybe you can change that out with something healthy, maybe yogurt, or fruit. And that I think is the way I would handle it and have handled it. What do you think of that idea? Like changing one little thing at a time.
Exactly. The entire program of how to become and remain healthy is probably overwhelming for most of us when we think about it.
Yes.
And it can become overwhelming, but we have to make it enjoyable. And how do we make it enjoyable? As Marie says, one thing at a time. Focus on nutrition, conquer that, develop a discipline with that.
Mm.
And the next thing is like, how am I going to get my exercise in every day? What is exercise for you? Maybe it's just meeting your neighbor and going out for a walk. That is wonderful. 30 minutes a day, at least 5 days a week, total of 150 minutes a week is all it takes.
Yes.
When we think of that and we develop a pattern with our friend, our neighbor, or you have a dog, you take your dog out for a walk,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
or a partner, whatever it
Something.
takes
It just
to
has to be 10
motivate you.
minutes. Yes. I think people think they have to go to the gym and work up a sweat. I just got an iWatch and I'm having a lot of fun with it because it has an activity tracker in there. So it kind of gives me points for if I stand every hour, if I'm in the chair watching TV, it'll tell me you need to stand You've been in the chair too long. And then different things. And that for me is like a motivator, right? Like they gave me an award the other day because I met my stand goal for the week.
Exactly.
So, I mean, whatever it takes, the steps, it has the steps you take. So maybe I'm only taking 2,000 steps a day, but I have a goal in there to take 5,000 steps a day. So, what do you think about that? Motivation is important, isn't it?
Exactly. Whatever it takes to motivate you. I myself use an aura ring, which measures my metrics in sleep. Let's talk about sleep a little bit. Sleep is the powerhouse of our activities of daily living. We must try our best to get 6 to 8 hours sleep every night.
Yeah.
And I have friends that tell me, Cynthia, I can't do that. I can't sleep that long. I say, well, we need to try to make it happen. How can we make it happen? Number one, do not eat 3 hours before going to bed. Don't have
Oh,
that heavy meal at 7 o'clock at night and go to bed at 9.
yeah.
You will not be able to have a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Number two, if you consume the little glass of wine with your dinner, again, it's not that you can't have the little 4 ounces of wine, but you cannot have it 3 to 4 hours before going to bed.
Timing is everything right there. Yeah.
Number,
Midnight snacks. People like their midnight snacks.
exactly. The next thing we need
Ah,
to think about, if you watch television, the
mhm,
blue light of the television or even your cell phone
mhm.
will really deprive you from having a good night's sleep.
What I did, one of the things I know, I'm talking about taking those small steps, right? I'm on the computer and my phone or watching TV like a lot because of my career, because I'm writing or I'm having a podcast. So I got these blue light blockers.
Exactly.
And
Very good.
yeah, and I use them when I watch TV too. And then when I'm on the computer, I don't have them on now because of the glare. But little things, we change little things, right?
Yeah.
Now, what do you? I want a
Important.
suggestion. I need advice. My husband, who has Parkinson's, and they have him on so many medications at night. And a couple of them, I said, if I took those two things together, I'd be like, forget about it, zombie. But he, because of the Parkinson's, has problems staying asleep. Like he'll go to sleep. He might sleep for an hour or two, a good night, maybe three. Then he has to get up to pee. He comes back to bed. He can't sleep. Is there anything that can help someone like that with going back to sleep?
Well, I think one of the things one needs to think about is the activities prior to going to bed. Let's say the routine. We need to establish a routine, a discipline of going to bed at the same time. It's called our circadian rhythm.
Mm,
The brain gets used to the circadian rhythm. Let's say you
yes.
go to bed every night after the 9 o'clock news. Let's say you go to bed at 10. Again, what are you stimulating your brain with prior to sleep?
Mm,
Are you watching a drama movie that is really disturbing rather than
true.
relaxing?
True.
Or are you, number two, reading news that is too heavy for you in the night?
Mm-hmm.
I think that is important in the sleep suggestion of sleep hygiene. It's important to start de-escalating our internal emotions at least 3 hours prior to going to bed.
Yeah.
What does this mean? Perhaps for you, it's listen to some nice music. For me, sometimes on a Friday night, it's watching a romantic woman's movie on
Chick
Netflix.
flick. Chick flick, they call
I
it.
like to see people in the movies falling in love and
Right.
all the beautiful
Yeah.
things.
And it's
I
some
mean, it makes me
humor.
happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
do something that makes you happy and makes you
And
smile.
Cynthia, he does have nightmares too. He has nightmares. So I'm gonna work on he does go to bed at the same time every night. So he's good about that. He learned not to 3 hours before bedtime. He's he's doing what he needs to do. Um, Now, believe it or not, I do not go to sleep till 1 in the morning, but I sleep till 9 o'clock. So I'm getting 8 hours sleep. When you said about
Wonderful.
circadian rhythm, I I was in the bar and restaurant business for many, many years. And bartenders, they're up very late. They're up after 2 in the morning and then they go for breakfast and go to sleep late. So I think that's still ingrained in me. And it's okay. I get a lot done. He goes to sleep. He's asleep by 11, and that 2 hours, I get things done that I want to get done, and I relax. I have time to relax, and then I put on a meditation. I have a lovely meditation that I put on every night, and that's it. So you got to find your own routine, your own sleep.
Exactly. Your own rhythm. Exactly. And what relaxes you prior to saying good night, whatever time of the night that is. But relaxation prior before trying to sleep is important. Talking about meditation, I think probably is one of the great de-stressors today that most doctors sometimes fail to recommend. It's easier for the doctor to write a prescription for a sleeping pill than tell you, why don't you engage in meditation?
Yes,
And to explain to the patient what meditation is
yes.
basically just calming the brain down with proper breaths. And there's so many sites today available on your cell phone
You have an
that you
app, you
can
can get an app. I have one called Insight Timer, and it's free. And you can go in there and say, well, I need a meditation for stress, or I need one for sleep. And then they have how long. And maybe you have 3 minutes and you're feeling stressed out and you have to go to a meeting. I'll play 3 minutes. I also am in a prayer group on Thursdays on Zoom, and most of the session is in meditation, which is very good. And then our church, Unity of the Palm Beaches, as you know, you've been there, they make meditation part of the service, which I think I've never seen before anywhere else. So you can weave that meditation into your life, like I did when I go to sleep, or these two places that I have it. It's not that hard. And again, like you said, go on, get an app on your phone, right? Two of my grandsons, two of them. One is 16, one is 25. They do meditation. So I'm glad that the younger generation is starting to realize that it's a good
wonderful.
tool. Yes. Yes.
The other thing that's important in the whole body-mind connection is connecting with community. It's very important to say good morning to your neighbor, to connect with friends, to participate in community, whatever you find that to be. There are meetup groups starting again. Find a meetup group that you like, join the meetup group,
Yes.
participate in an activity that engages in community.
Yes.
Connect with your family. There are many families that are totally disconnected because of time and distance, but try to engage with your family and friends and stay in community. That is so important for our brain.
And
Our brain loves it.
I'm gonna separate two of the things you said, community and family. First, community. By going to the spiritual community I go to on Sunday, afterwards they have a coffee. They have a room where we have coffee and snacks, right? So that's wonderful. We look forward to doing that, as well as having the meditation, as well as having the spiritual message. And then I was like in a situation where all my friends were like moving because they were older than me and not able to live alone. I'm going to be 75. They were like 85 and 90. And I am in therapy because I need therapy, because 2020 and my husband's condition did a number on me. And I have chronic depression and panic disorder. So I'm in therapy. And my therapist said, Marie, your homework this week is to make new friends.
Absolutely.
And
That's a good homework.
it was, and I'm such an overachiever that the next session I said I made 3. She was laughing. And all it took was those women I run into that we say all the time, oh, we should have coffee, we should do lunch, and you don't follow up on it, right? So I followed up on it and I said, no, let's make a date for it, not just say we should, right? And the family part, and this ties into something that you believe too, surrounding yourself with the right people and having a positive outlook, like the right people, people that make you feel good about yourself, people that I call are not toxic. And sometimes, unfortunately, your family, you cannot choose, okay, can have some toxicity, some toxic members in it. You have any advice on that one? It's
I
tough.
read an article not too long ago concerning that about connection and friends. Amazingly so, as we age, we lose some friends. As we move, we need to start all over again. I have moved so many times in my life lately that it's difficult to start connecting. But I think the best advice I could say, you just have to put yourself out there.
Yes.
Because they're never going to come to you unless you go to them. I moved
True.
into a new community recently, and I decided I need to start going where the people are, and that's the gym. So I go to the gym and I meet people and I say hello. And after a few times, I say, hey, Cynthia, you want to come to this or you want to come to that? I say, sure, I'll be there. And I start slowly developing a relationship with people in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I had to put myself out there. The
Yeah.
neighborhood was never going to come to me.
No.
So I think we sort of have to have a little bit of pizzazz, a little bit of courage, and say, good morning, how are you? I'm Cynthia, I just moved in.
Yes.
And the person will start to talk to you.
Yes.
I mean, it's as simple as that.
That's what I did. That's what I did.
There we go.
A couple of the friends were neighbors, and it worked. So you also, I always worry about my memory loss and things like that. And I got tested and did everything, and my brain is fine. My neurologist said, you have a brain of a 25-year-old. So finally, somebody said it's stress, because with stress, sometimes it affects your memory loss. Do you agree with that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that not only the stress causes cognitive changes over time, what stress does, it creates our cortisol. And our cortisol is not totally good for us all the time.
Yeah.
It's like a dripping faucet. It keeps dripping and dripping and dripping. And then you see the oxidation at the bottom of the faucet from the water that was dripping. That's what stress does for you, just drips and drips and drips. And it starts to affect the connectivity in the brain. The neurons start missing here and there. So I would suggest the moment you see, I forgot where I put my car keys, or I forgot how to get home. This is significant. And one can call them mild cognitive changes, which is reversible and preventable if we pay attention when we start to experience it. We shouldn't ignore it. I mean, if one should be brave enough to tell our loved one, I need to see a doctor because I went out the other day and I couldn't find my car in the parking lot. I forgot where I parked. You will think there was nothing. That is not common. You need to pay attention why you forgot where you park your car.
Yeah. I'm very proactive about health. Even though the neurologist said my brain was fine, I went to the Alzheimer's Foundation and had them test me. And they said, you're fine, and again, stress. So meditation and self-care and eating right and exercise and all those things will help that too, right?
Absolutely. And your nutrition.
Very important. Now,
and the exercise, my friends, just go and walk.
Oh, yes, I know. I'm working on different things. In fact, I might take up yoga. I think yoga might be my exercise. Everybody's got to find their own thing and something that they're going to do.
Yeah, find your own thing.
Yeah. So,
For example,
yeah.
let me share with you, I have mobility issues because of my multiple sclerosis. My left side is affected, my left lower extremity, and I use a scooter. And I have what they call a new step machine that I do 2 miles a day on my new step machine. There we
Wonderful.
go.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
sometimes I miss a day, but the
Yeah,
next day I try to compensate by doing an extra 500.
exactly. Yeah,
I
yeah.
have an extra 500 steps in the machine for punishment because I didn't do it the day before.
Ah, but that's great. You found your thing. Now, do you have a podcast yourself, or are you planning on having one to talk more about these ideas to overcome health issues, etc.?
I didn't quite
I,
get that question.
okay. I was under the impression you might start your own podcast. No, I'm wrong.
No,
Okay,
no.
that's okay. I don't know where I got that from. Are you writing another book?
Okay, yes, I am. Additionally, I'm starting a podcast. You inspired me, Marie, to do a
Mhm,
podcast. So
mhm.
I'm going to have you invited also. And I'm starting a podcast. It's called Health Enrichment.
Okay,
And the start date is no later than October 8th.
okay.
And the reason it's October 8th, because it's a significant date for me that I totally became super independent. On October 8th, a year ago, I was living in an assisted living facility
Mm,
that I felt I needed to get out basically.
yeah.
And I bought a house and it's going to be a year. And
Wow.
let's put it this way, talk about environment influence your
I'll say
cognition
so.
and your surroundings. You
Yeah.
have to put yourself in an environment that's conducive with motivating you and inspiring you to do better. And that's what I did in the past year.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's your, yeah, your tribute to everything you're talking about. A good example. So I want to thank you. It goes by fast, but I want to thank you for your insightful and inspirational ideas, how we can overcome obstacles to live a better life. And I took away some good things for myself, to increase things that I'm doing to live a better life. And please invite me when you do start your podcast. That's what I was asking before. All
Well,
right.
thank you. Thank you. You inspired me, Marie. I said, Marie is doing this. I think I should do it too with a different twist. I'm calling Health Enrichment, where we'll be talking about the brain and many little tips that we can do that I have learned over the past 83
Yeah,
years.
you
That's
look
my
great.
age.
You look
There we
great too.
go. Thank
Yeah, there
you.
you go.
Thank you. So I thought I would share it with you
Yes.
and develop the courage to those who are listening that we can do it because motivation, discipline, courage, belief, we can do it.
Oh, thank you so much. What a great woman you are. You really survived a lot, and I'm looking forward to being on your podcast when you have it. So thanks again, Cynthia. That was Dr. Cynthia Guy, and
Thank
her
you.
book. You can get her book, I believe, on Amazon. Correct? You can get your
Yeah,
book.
The Kindle is
Oh,
free.
Kindle is free. Okay, and it's
Yeah,
Love Yourself
for my
Healthy.
book.
Yeah, Love
Yeah,
Yourself
it's on for
Healthy.
free.
Go get that book.
Yeah.
Everybody, love yourself
Well, thank
healthy.
you. It was first published in 2014, so it has a few years tracking, and I really never market the book, so that's
Yeah,
why it's free on Kindle. So you can
that's
get it.
fine. You're giving a
And
gift. It's a
yeah,
gift to anyone who wants to live a better
yeah,
life.
it's
Thanks
basically my
again.
story of finance.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity and love to you and everyone else who's listening. Thank you very
thank you,
much.
Cynthia.